All right, hello everybody. I hope that you're doing well. I hope you're staying safe, taking care of yourself. I just saw a statistic today that said 1 in 3 people show absolutely zero signs of the virus, no symptoms at all, feel totally fine, yet are carriers and can spread it to other people. So just be super careful, be extra cautious about who you're, stay apart from each other, take care of yourself, follow the guidelines they're putting out there. And just know that just because you feel totally fine doesn't mean that you can't be carrying the virus and possibly spreading it to other people. So you need to be extra careful in how you're living your life. So obviously right now is a time of fear and anxiety. So I figured our devotional that we would do today is talk about fear and what grabs a hold of us. So first of all, I want to ask, what are you afraid of? What has you fearful? For me, there's a few things that I'm scared of. I don't like heights. I can do roller coasters, but standing somewhere like this lady at the edge of a cliff, nope, not for me. In Romania, if you were with us at the mountain, I would not get too close to the edge. I like to keep my distance from seeing drop-offs and things like that. I don't like heights. I don't like spiders or snakes. I don't even like looking up these images. I don't like them. They scare the crap out of me. And also bees. I don't like bees. I'm not scared of them, but I just don't like them. So those are some things I'm afraid of. But on a more serious note, there's one part in my life that was probably the scariest part. And that was when Liam was born. All of you know this story, but he had trouble breathing. And when all the doctors and nurses rushed into the delivery room and took him away from us, and were running all kinds of tests and sounded very anxious and worried about him, it was terrifying. And then we ended up in Greenville Memorial in the intensive care unit, and he was hooked up to all kinds of machines, and seeing him like that was very much the scariest time of my life. And thankfully to people like you guys at TBCY for reaching out to us, sending us these beautiful cards, letting us know that you were supporting us and loving us and hoping that we were going to be okay. It's so important at this time to have a community like that, and so I just thank you guys for that and empower you to use the same kind of spirit that you had when helping us through this situation right now, to use that right now in this time of crisis for everybody in your community, your family that you're seeing and isolated with, your friends you don't get to see as much that you can still reach out to, loved ones, that kind of thing, older family members that you may have that are isolated right now and may feel lonely. There's so much you can do for your community, and we'll talk more about that later. But Proverbs 12:25 says, "An anxious heart weighs a man down, but a kind word cheers him up." See, fear is this thing that grips us. It's gripping. And when I think about gripping, I think, like how I'm holding this remote real tightly. It's not going to fall out of my hand. It can't go anywhere. If this was a living thing, it could try and squirm out of my hand, but my grip is tight right now, and it wouldn't be able to go anywhere. And that's what fear does to our life. So that's kind of what it means when I say that fear is gripping. And then I listed some things that fear might take a hold of in your life. Obviously, we know about the coronavirus and the fear that might come with all that. But also there's fears about the safety and health of our families. And then outside of the coronavirus, when things are normal, we have fears about our loved ones and worries and anxieties about them. We have fears about our friends and our relationships at school. Being respectful to our friends, avoiding conflict with them. We're always afraid of losing friends and that kind of stuff. We're always worried about school, our grades, or we don't worry enough about school and our grades. But there's always fears and anxieties about school. Our personal image, whether it's how you are portrayed on social media, what people say about you. We get so fearful of people thinking negative thoughts about us and saying negative things about us that it can grip our life. And then the future, of course, there's anxieties and worries about, obviously right now, about what's going to happen next and what the future is going to be. So fear not only takes a hold of you in the present moment, but as you start thinking more and more about the future, fear can hold you and grip you in place and make you worry so much about the future that you stop taking actions, you stop doing things, you talk yourself out of doing things just because of that fear of failure and what might happen. Matthew 6:34 says, therefore, I'm sorry. It says, therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. So there are things that we need to worry about and take care of every single day, things that we have to do. And the more time we spend thinking about the future and what's coming down the line, it starts freezing us and gripping us and making us worry so much that we kind of go into our shell and curl up, and we're unable to do those things, or we get so worried about them that they start to affect us physically and mentally and hold us in place. And usually when we're fearful about what might happen in the future, we end up deciding that whatever it is we were going to do, we're just not going to do it because of the fear of failure. So fear sometimes can lead to inaction. You think about like scary movies, how when the killer or the monster is cornering somebody, and instead of fighting back or running away, they just cower down into that corner, and they're just so gripped with fear that it freezes them in their tracks. And that's what fear can do to our lives. It prevents us from doing the things that God is trying to encourage us and equip us to do. And part of life involves taking chances and taking risks and putting yourself out there. And yes, there's going to be failures in life because we're people. We make mistakes, we screw up, we do things wrong all the time. I'm not going to tell you how many takes this video has taken me to do because I mess up. So, those are the kind of things that we get so afraid of and worried about that we just stop doing things because we're afraid of that failure. And instead of thinking about the positive things that can come out of taking that chance and putting yourself out there and taking that risk, all we want to think about and worry about is what might go wrong. And so my encouragement for you is to not be so gripped by fear about failing, because putting yourself out there and trying will teach you so much more than doing nothing at all could ever do. There's going to be those times where you fail, but failing forward is so important. And what I mean by that is when you make a mistake, you can learn from it. You can look back and you can reflect on it and realize, oh, I could do this, that, and the other better, or don't do it at all, or do this next time, whatever. But when you choose not to do anything at all, how can you look back on that and learn from it at all? You just look back and say, oh, I didn't even do it. And that's pretty much it. So that's what fear can do to your life. And my encouragement for you is to not let that happen to you when you start to get worried and anxious and fearful about what's coming next. 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. So God did not make us to let our fears and worry stop us from chasing after the life that He is trying to provide for us, the path that He has put forward for us. He created us instead to take chances, to take risks, to fail forward by just trying to live the life that He wants you to live. And the best way that you can find that path that He is trying to set out for you is by walking, by doing something, by getting out on the path. And you might stumble, you might fall, but you're walking the path. You're still trying and failing forward and learning from those mistakes. Now, I say all this not to encourage you to leave your house and go out and try to, be this tremendous impact by taking care of people and interacting socially with people right now. That might do more harm than good. But if you heard me on Sunday morning in worship, then you've heard many ways that you can be a positive impact by staying at home, reaching out to people with your phones through texting or calling, talking to elderly people that your family members that might be really isolated in this time. If you have money, if you make your own money, you can buy gift cards to local places that you like to go eat and buy them now so that you can help them out financially. There's lots of things that you can do to be that positive impact. And so I want to leave you with thoughts about how you can take this devotional out into the world. It obviously applies to dealing with the coronavirus, but how can it apply to, for example, being stuck at home right now when tempers are short with your family members, and having that patience and having that grace with them and not letting all these fears and anxieties affect your behavior in a negative way? How can you apply it to your life when things go back to normal, when you go back to school and you're interacting with your friends on a daily basis and your teachers and your schoolwork? How can it apply to your life when you're on our mission trip this summer? Or maybe the fear is that of the mission trip, so you're not going. Maybe you're afraid about doing a new experience and going out to a place you've never been and doing work that you may have never done before. That can be a terrifying thing. I understand that. So maybe that's something that you're letting fear grab a hold of you on, and you need God's help in getting over that fear, so that you'll put yourself out there and try to go and be the hands and feet of Jesus in a community that really needs our help. Or maybe think about how this will apply to your senior week if you get to go on your beach trip with your friends, seniors. Send me your responses of how you think that this could affect your life in a positive way. If you send them to me, I'm going to pick out some and I'll put them on the video next week. And if you have any other questions or feedback about the videos, any ideas on topics you want discussed or anything like that, you can send them to me. And then obviously prayer requests. If you have any prayer requests, I'll pray at the end of this. And if there are prayer requests that you would like to have prayed for, then we'll do that as well. So I'm going to close this out with a time of prayer, but I really appreciate you listening into this, and just give me your feedback. Let me know that you saw it at least, and we'll go there from there. So I hope to speak to you all again soon. Tune in Sunday morning for our worship service at 10:30 on Facebook Live, and let's close out in prayer. Dear Lord, I thank you so much for this day. I thank you for the technology that allows us to reach out to each other in times like this, so that we can still be in community together. God, I ask that you remind us that you have equipped us not with a spirit of fear, but a spirit of power and love that can impact our community in so many different ways. I ask that you be with all of our family members, all of our church family members, the doctors and nurses and people that are trying to help fight this disease, and heal our communities and heal the world. I just ask that you be with all the prayer requests out there that people may have, spoken or unspoken. God, I just ask that you be with all of us this week and help us to not let fear grip our lives, but have that spirit of power and love that can be a positive force for good in this world. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right, thanks guys. I'll talk to y'all soon.